طيب, chapter 28, باب ما جاء في التطير. What is said regarding التطير is basically belief in omens, right? And التطير is basically being a pessimistic or see something that would change your decisions based on something that you saw, or things has nothing to do with physical means, things has nothing to do with the religious means, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That is a form of shirk, because the hearts will be attached to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this spread when ignorance spread, right? In which again, the means that Allah created are physical means that are known by experiment, and the religious means in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The ayah says, أَلَا إِنَّمَا طَائِرُهُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Verily, their evil omens are with Allah, but most of them know not, right? And the second verse, قَالُوا طَائِرُكُمْ مَعَكُمْ أَإِنْ ذُكِّرْتُمْ بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ مُسْرِفُونَ. They, the messengers, they said, your evil omens will be, or be with you. Do you call it evil omen because you are admonished? Nay, but you are a people of musrifun, transgressors, and so on. So these verses clearly mention about the evil omens and how they call it tayra, when they used to make a bird fly from, is the same word meaning. And if it flies, goes to the right side, that means it's a good omen. If it flies to the left side, then it's a bad omen. Then don't travel or making decisions based on this. And as we know, this is ignorant, right? Has nothing to do with physical means, has nothing to do with the revelation from Allah. So that means the heart will be attached to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why it's a form of shirk. So it clearly mentioned that this is the ways of the jahiliyyah, this is the way of the disbelievers, that the Muslim has to believe in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the owner of all things is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the heart has to be attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and not to these things that has nothing to do with the benefit or bringing loss to the people. Also that sins, as it's mentioned in the ayah, قالوا طائركم معكم إن ذكرتم, that sins is the mean for disasters that happens on the face of earth, and how people, when they're ignorant, they would do these types of things. That means people need to learn the knowledge قال الله قال رسوله قال الصحابة. When they learn the words of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, they would stay away from these types of ignorant things. And anything that the messengers brought to the people is a matter of barakah, and this is what we seek, the barakah and the blessings from the sayings and the actions of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ never done these things. He forbade his ummah from these types of things, and you would still see some of the ummah indulged in these acts of kufr and shirk wal-'iyadhu billah. The next hadith عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا عدوى ولا طيرة ولا هامة ولا صفر, which means وزاد مسلم ولا نوء ولا غول. The Prophet ﷺ said, there is no adwa. This is the first word mentioned here, and al-adwa is contagion of disease without Allah's permission. Nor is tira, which is bad omens. Nor is there any hama, the omen of the night bird, the owl. Wala safar, nor is there any bad omen in the month of Safar. And in Sahih Muslim, there is an extension to this narration, wala naw wala ghul, and no naw, constellation, and no ghul, ghost, etc. Right? So what are these things? These things basically again goes to the fact that it's not a physical mean, it's not a religious mean. That means it's an act of shirk that people need to avoid. It has nothing to do with the affairs of people. Adwa is the contagion of disease without Allah's permission. There is something that transfer, yes, viruses and bacteria and things of that nature, yeah, but it all by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It does not happen by itself. It is not the creator of the disease, right? It goes by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills for it, it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, right? Like epidemics, for example. Not every single human beings would fall into this. Only some people, whether it's thousands or millions, whatever there is, but not every single human being. So that means it's by the permission of Allah. So it's not always true that if you get into some close proximity with someone that is sick, that you would have to fall into the sickness. No, it's all by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You take the means, yes, because the Prophet ﷺ ordered us to do that the one that is sick should not come to the one that is healthy. And he said, run away and flee from the one that has judam or min al-majdum firarak min al-asad, this skin disease that makes the parts fall. The Prophet ﷺ said, you flee from him like you flee from a lion. These are all permissible means that a person would take, but the heart is content that everything is by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You might get sick, you might not get sick, you just take in the means, but everything is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about a camel that has a skin disease, when he is in the midst of camels that are healthy, right? So the Prophet ﷺ told them, then who caused the first disease? Like if, yes, it spreads and it's contagious and they need to take the means to avoid that, but the heart's attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and they take the means. But the Prophet ﷺ directed them to think, the first one that got the disease, how did he get it? When there was no contagiousness in it yet, right? So it means that it's by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means people need to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So this is adwa. Tiyara, we mentioned before, the bad omens. Seeing a black cat, this and that, a person will feel different. He would not travel, he would not act normally because of something that has nothing to do with physical means or religious means. Al-Hama here, which the owl, am I saying it right? The owl, the bird, the night bird, right, that sits on the tree. People have fantasies and stories in the old ages of how this affect the lives of people and so on, just because it looks to them scary or something like that maybe. Right? This has nothing to do with affecting the affairs of people. The qada, the qadar, the destiny of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has nothing to do with this bird that is weak standing on a tree. People that used to, once they see it, that means disaster would occur in their lives and they would panic and so on. In which is nothing to do, the bird has nothing to do with this. So the Prophet ﷺ saying that these things are acts of jahiliyyah that people need to stay away. And still, right, there is still these forms of jahiliyyah being present. I myself personally remember when we were young, they mentioned this about this owl thing. Once they see it, people panic. They become scared that something bad is going to happen to them. And you might find some of them have PhDs and very sophisticated in knowledge, but they would still act foolishly like that. That shows how the ignorance is in the heart when a person does not depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Wala Safar, the month of Safar. That people used to believe that, not feeling good in the month of Safar, or bad omens, they don't travel in the month of Safar because of that. Then the Prophet ﷺ said there's no such a thing. Some people do that with Friday the 13th of the month. Friday is a blessed day, is the holiday of the Muslims, right? How can that be, or the number 13 where they don't have it in hotels and things like that. Shows how people are ignorant when it comes to these types of things that has nothing to do with bad things happening or good things. It's not a physical mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, nor something that is mentioned in the religion. And now is basically, there's a separate chapter for it. But he says here, the constellation in the path of moon, or a division of time connected with the phases of the moon, that they believe that has to do something with the rain. Right? Physically, it has nothing to do with the rain. So as a result of that, whoever believes in it, he is believing in something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create as a mean. That means it's a form of shirk. And the chapter for the now will come separately, inshallah. So we keep it till it comes, inshallah. Wala ghul, the ghul is that where they scare the children from, right? And it's ghost or shayateen or devils, right? That it does not exist, right? Or if it exists, it has nothing to do with harm, right? And this is one of the evil things that parents do to their children, right? If you don't listen to me, we call it the masluha. The one that is with burned legs will come to you and cause harm to you. The ghost will come. All of this is not permissible to lie, and it's basically making the hearts of the children being dependent on other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the protector, and if they do wrong, they need to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the fear of a ghost that has no meaning to it, and things like that. And this is the ways of jahiliyyah, exactly the ways of jahiliyyah. The Prophet ﷺ, and this is the perfectness of the deen, these things are mentioned specifically like that it's not permissible. And we show when these things are not being taught, these things spreads in communities. Something like this book with the verses of the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. If you don't teach Tawhid, people will fall into the shirk. Right? And that's why we see then people, when they ignore teaching Tawhid, they think that the deen of Islam, we just teach about good mannerism and about good feelings and things like that. And where is the Tawhid in our life? It's being put aside. If we don't teach it, people would fall into the shirk. And that's why these things are spread, as they're in the places where people are not taught the Tawhid from early ages and all the time. This is something that should be continuously being taught, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So all of these benefits, we see that the trust we put in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, that all of these things that is mentioned has nothing to do with running the affairs of the people. It's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to establish the Tawheed, we have to be staying away from all these forms of shirk. And it shows also that to perfect the Tawheed is not just to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship, unless we get to know these specifics of the shirk, that we have to avoid this, have to avoid that, and so on, one by one like this, that we have to learn to avoid, because it negates and weakens the Tawheed of the person of La ilaha illallah. And what is more important than this? Salah and Siyam and Zakah, all of this won't benefit the person if there's a deficiency in La ilaha illallah, like we hear in these types of ahadith. And anything else that people invent, not just the things that is mentioned here, whether it's again the number 13 or colors or umbrellas or a slipper on the upside down or broken glass, or all of these types of things that people, shaitan does not stay in and end with it. He goes on and beyond the things that is permissible. The next hadith, ولهم عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال لا عدوى ولا طيرة. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا عدوى ولا طيرة ويعجبني الفأل. قال وما الفأل؟ قال الكلمة الطيبة. The Prophet ﷺ said no adwa again, and no tiyara, no bad omens, but al-fa'l pleases me. So they asked, what is al-fa'l? He ﷺ answered, it is the good word, reported by Bukhari or Muslim. Meaning that a good word would make you feel good. This feeling good is not something that you're depending on your heart with, on other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a good thing that you hear a good word, makes you feel good, makes you give you more strength and things like that to do what you're supposed to do, right? Bad words should not affect you. This is what can lead the person to the shirk. But good words encourages the person. There is nothing wrong with that, and this is the fact. Like a person, for example, is sick, as you mentioned in this example, and you would say, "Mashallah, you're looking good," right? So he likes that. He makes him really look. He makes him, means for him to cure, right? That he feels good. His, that can help him in matters of his cure, and there's nothing wrong with that. So al-fa'l, or the good word, is something that is different than the tiyara or the bad omens and so on. The next hadith, ولأبي داود بسند صحيح عن عروة بن عامر قال ذكرت الطيرة عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال أحسنها الفأل ولا ترد مسلما فإذا رأى أحدكم ما يكره فليقل اللهم لا يأتي بالحسنات إلا أنت ولا يدفع السيئات إلا أنت ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بك. This is something reported by Abu Dawood, that at-tira was mentioned before Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the bad omens. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the best form of it is al-fa'l, the optimism or the expectation that an event will occur by Allah's permission, the good word, as we heard before. It does not, meaning the bad omens, it does not prevent a Muslim from his object. Whenever any of you sees something he dislikes, he should say, Allahumma la ya'ti bil hasanati illa ant, wa la yadfa'u as-sayyi'ati illa ant, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa bik. He should say the meaning of which, O my Rabb, O Allah, none but you bring good things, none but you prevent evil things. There is no power and no strength except in you. This is the Tawheed, right? Not all these types of things that people will believe in. This is the Tawheed that we're supposed to believe in and seek the strength from. So again, it shows that tiyara or bad omens is haram, and to put the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring what is good. And this is the meaning of la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, denying all forms of power and all forms of turning from what is evil to what is good, except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. That means totally the heart has to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. The more we read these things, it should make us understand really how that we're supposed to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Right? That the heart is turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Not to a human being, not to an object, not to an incident, not to any of the creation of Allah, but to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High alone. And this is where all goodness would happen to the person in this life and in the hereafter. وعن ابن مسعود مرفوعا الطيرة شرك الطيرة شرك وما منا إلا ولكن الله يذهبه بالتوكل. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhuma, he said in the marfu' hadith that he refers that to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said at-tiyara shirk. There's nothing clearer than this. At-tiyara, or the bad omens, shirk. At-tiyara shirk, repeating it. And then he said ma minna illa, there is none among us. And he did not say continued that, meaning there is none among us who does not feel something in his heart. This is something that would come into your heart. Nothing wrong with what you feel in your heart. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يُذْهِبُهُ بِالتَّوَكُّلِ. Then he said, but Allah, due to deep trust in Him, due to the tawakkul, putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, removes it. So this hadith states that it's in the nature of the human being. You see something you don't like, it might have some feeling in your heart. So you need to push that away by putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. If a person's iman is weak, if a person is ignorant about all of this, what happens? The tayara stays in the heart. And that even shows that matters of shirk, if you don't fight it, it stays with the person. Because shaitan is working, the nafs works on oneself, so unless you fight it with the tawhid, with learning the tawhid and forcing oneself and pondering over things, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of all things. So why should a person feel anything of the creation of Allah? So that would push away what's in the heart of the person. So tayara shirk, why? Because the heart is attached to it, and as a result of that it's shirk. Also repeating the matter to make it clear. Tayara shirk, so that people would realize the danger of it. And how would a person stay away from tayara? By putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with one's heart, that everything is in the control and owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يقول ولأحمد من حديث ابن عمرو من ردته الطيرة عن حاجته فقد أشرك قالوا فما كفارة ذلك قال أن تقول اللهم لا خير إلا خيرك ولا طير إلا طيرك ولا إله غيرك. Whoever is turned back by a tiyara, right, this is the hadith, whoever is turned back by the bad omens has committed shirk. You're traveling, but then you wake up in the morning with a broken glass, or it's the 13th, or whatever these funny things that people invent. So you would make a decision, I'm not going to travel today. I'm not going to do it today because of whatever this. This is shirk. If it prevents you from what you're doing, then this is shirk. They asked, what makes the atonement for such a sin? How can you repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for such a sin? The Prophet ﷺ answered to say, Allahumma la khayra illa khayruk. O Allah, there is no good except the good which you bestow. Wala tayra illa tayruk. There is no evil except the evil which you decree. Wala ilaha ghayruk. And there is no true ilah, one to be worshipped, except you. This is the beauty of the Tawhid. This is the beauty of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the tranquility of it. And on the other side, the misery of the hearts being attached to lies and to objects and to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a beautiful dua for the person to memorize. Allahumma la khayra illa khayruk, wa la tayra illa tayruk, wa la ilaha ghayruk. When he feels something in his heart, he needs to say this dua, he needs to push it away by putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nothing can harm you except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So turn to Him alone. And this is different than having physical means that would prevent the person. The weather is rainy and so on and so forth, and you want to travel, right? So the physical mean is that you're worried that you know the car slips or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not evil omens or bad omens, right? There's a physical reason why He that prevented you from traveling, not just because it doesn't feel good, or a bird or whatever there is. وله من حديث الفضل بن عباس إنما الطيرة ما أمضاك أو ردك. So the way to figure out, are we having this disease in our heart or not? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma reported to say, At-tiyara, the bad omens, is that which causes you to carry something out or that turns you back from your mission. So only the feeling is not tiyara. Right? If you have the feeling, the bad feeling, don't feel that you committed a sin. This is natural thing in the human being. But if it affects your actions, make a decision as a result of the bad feelings, then this is the tiyara where the Prophet ﷺ that it's shirk. But only the feeling, it's over the capacity of the human being. And once he has it, should he stay and relax with it? No, because if he leaves it, it would lead him to do action that is wrong. That means he has to push it away, as we heard in the previous narration, with putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That a person would make the decision that he would put the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that nothing except by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills for it to happen. So this is clearly cures the heart of the Muslim from such diseases. And the real shirk is what makes the person do an action. And as long as there's nothing of actions is being done, then there's no tiyara in that case. And to know the dhikr, the beauty of knowing the adhkar of the Prophet ﷺ, you don't need to figure out your own way. The Prophet ﷺ taught us how to say these beautiful adhkar. So again, maybe person can learn how to say these adhkar and say it.